Splatoon has a pretty mixed bag with creating stages, with most stages from the first game being versatile and fun to play on, with Splatoon 2 stages being boring, cramped messes. So how will Splatoon 3 fix this? Splatoon is all about proper map control, special usage, and proper movement options. The way that these cephalopods can move makes playing Splatoon one of the best experiences out there, and with the addition of the Squid Roll and Squid Surge, 3 may have some of the most frantic and engaging gameplay in the trilogy of games. And if you're a low-level Splatoon player right now, you probably have yet to reach the full potential of movement and abilities that you can have at your disposal. But if you have a bad stage, it'll hinder movement options, and that's partly why most of the stages in 2 sucked. Most maps completely restrict movement options, which makes playing on them completely one-sided at times. Splatoon 1 gave players tons of pathways and movement options, with Urchin Underpass possibly being the best example out there. You start out and immediately have 3 options on where to go: straight down mid, up top, or off to the left. Each option serves a different purpose in gameplay and gives the players different ways to eventually reach the middle of the stage, where keeping map control is the most important. And this is the fundamental design philosophy with most other stages in 1, which is why the movement didn't feel so limited. Splatoon 2 takes a different approach with its stage design, and while it works sometimes, the stages are mostly extremely difficult to play on and force fights in mid. It's also pretty easy to see the different approaches to stage design from the stages they brought over from 1 into 2. Taking a look at Arowana Mall showcases the plethora of other options on just how to reach and secure the middle, with the walls and slopes playing the most prominent role in the stage. Meanwhile, stages like Skipper Pavilion are hindered by the fact that there are only 2 routes to secure the middle, up top and down below. Once one team secures the middle, the other team has a tough time getting it back, making many ranked matches completely one-sided. Now, the stage design being so poor in 2 is likely due to 2 leading causes: time crunch and specials. 2 began development while the first game was still receiving updates and patches, meaning less time was being spent on it, and the game only had about a year and a half in the oven. This is the most prevalent when we look at story mode, the graphics, and many small things that show how most of the foundation of this game is actually from the first game. What's not like the first game is the specials that are all new and primarily team-based, meaning you're going to want to coordinate when and what specials to use at the same time with your teammates. This is actually the biggest problem with Splatoon 2, because you take the cramped as hell stage layouts and an uncoordinated team, and you've just automatically lost. Stages need more pathways. One of the core design philosophies of Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the consequence of the player's actions. If they're worse at the game, they'll most likely end up in the more challenging lower part of the stage. But if you take a more skilled player, then they're gonna end up in the higher parts of the stage and receive more rewards. So let's take this and apply it to Splatoon. You know, just not a 2D platformer, and instead guns and children. Stages need to have that core center area where most of the battles and map control occur, but let's also have those off-beaten pathways. Let's have higher areas for chargers to scout and super low areas for more challenging battles and such. Walls should also mostly be inkable, because they can play an integral role in fighting. Many of my fights in 2 come down to who has the faster splatting weapon, because there isn't really anything around me that I can use to get a vantage point, other than swimming and hiding. So stages shouldn't have any part that's hard to get to, but they do need to have more pathways to make for more interesting layouts, less forced fights in mid, and a better experience for those who prefer the heat of battle or those who would rather stay back and ink. Despite being one of the worst stages in both games, probably the worst, Moray Tower's terrible for both competitive and casual, and overall not fun for people to play on, is actually my favorite stage of all time. It's literally a bunch of parallel lines that go down, yet there are so many options on where to go and what to do. If it wasn't for it, being bad, then this would probably be the best stage in either game. Splatoon 2 had the brilliant idea of getting rid of all of the specials in the original to make way for arguably worse specials in every way. These do not work on their own at all. If a new player sees these, they're gonna think that they are the coolest things on the planet. And I mean, that's true, they did look cool to little 12-year-old me, but these things are terrible on their own, except for 3 being Tentamissiles, Booyah Bomb, and Ultra Stamp. Wanna know why? Because you can actually use these things by yourself. Ultra Stamp is pretty self-explanatory. It's versatile and suitable to use on almost any stage in any mode. Booyah Bomb and Tenna Missiles are mainly used to scout out opponents and force them to move to a new location, which is why they're my favorite specials. The rest are okay at best or just not very good on their own, which is how most players even use these specials alone. Ever heard of Panic Splashdown? It's a very common term in this game because this is the worst special by far and it's the easiest to counter and spam. Ink Armor is okay, but it only works when combined with other specials, and the rest are just used to force players out of an area, just worse than the previously mentioned Booyah Bomb and Tenna Missiles. On the other hand, the original had broken messes of specials, and I loved them. These were fun as hell to use and fight against, and they required no real coordination from your team. So obviously, we have got to combine the special design of both games, because we can't have broken messes, nor can we have the clunkiness of 2's special design. What we have seen so far does seem to be pretty well balanced, because it promotes self-efficiency and they don't appear to be broken. Keeping this efficient self-mindset while designing these stages will encourage better gameplay and tremendously help stage layouts. Being on the same system as Splatoon 2 presents 3 with a tremendous amount of challenges, but what I'll be focusing on right now is just the returning stages. 3 has got to choose what stages return very carefully, because it can't have a bunch of stages returning from 2 with very little new to choose from. That'll present less marketing from the game and give casual players less incentive to pick up this latest iteration of the Splatoon series. While I feel most old stages should return with reworks while also including a plethora of new stages, realistically we're probably gonna get minimal returning stages from 2 because of the shared system and the fact that there aren't that many good stages in this game. But the ones that do return still need reworks like the Splatoon 1 stages, which all turned out fantastic. So as I said in that video, which you should definitely go check out, let's start the game out with 10 to 15 stages and each month get a new one or a reworked returning stage until we get the stage count to around 30 or 40, expanding the game's lifespan tenfold and giving it more value to the average consumer. Combined, while not counting the shifty stations, there are 39 stages in each of the 2 games. So I don't think having about 40 stages is too much to ask for, right? Just, make sure they're good. If done right, 3 has the potential to not only be the best Splatoon game, but one of the best Switch games of all time. But they can't repeat past mistakes. They have to look at the criticism and requests and build on them. 3 does look extremely promising and no doubt will replace Splatoon 2 as my favorite game of all time, but only time will tell if this game truly deserves to be among some of the top games of the Switch. Make sure to like and subscribe, it helps tremendously, and comment what stages you want to return. I'll see y'all on the flip side.